Awesome, awesome. Great to see you guys. Great to see you. So, a very, very extensive topic today. We are going to do our best to catch up on all the products, hardware, software, everything that was released this year and the past couple of months. And trust me, I was going to use the wrong term in here, but we've really, really been pressing the gas hard, and we are accelerating towards a greener future with the energy releases and everything we're focusing on at the moment. You're going to be able to see that for yourself. So we're going to be able to experience it. And hopefully I'll be able to show you a very, very small bit of that today within the next 1 hour. Now, the first biggest thing that you've probably already seen and you've realized is going to be the locks on app and locks on config. And you'll probably see that everywhere now we have green. There's a little bit of like an energy symbol. And that is because we're focusing on energy. And that's going to be our main topic for the next couple of months, maybe even years. Because as you know, with the current energy crisis, prices are shooting absolutely through the roof. Everything is getting more expensive by the day. And we definitely need a way to be able to bring it down. We want to provide some more comfort for the customers. We want to be able to satisfy all their needs, and at the same time we can start talking about return on investments for a lot of the projects. We can start talking about developers and actually building the house of the future that are greener, more CO2 efficient, and more self-sufficient as well, because as you know, with more electric cars coming in, there are quite a few bits that the grid will need to be able to keep up with to meet the demand that we're going to have. So hopefully we'll be able to answer a lot of questions and provide a lot of solutions in that area. Now, as you know, one of the most important bits that we have is actually our software and the app, because if we have an end customer, regardless of the situation, whether it's commercial, residential, or a hospitality project, they need to be able to interact with the system in the easiest way possible. And for you, as the installers, obviously, we want to add all the features to make it easier in terms of installation, configuration time, and everything that is currently on the market in terms of maybe trying to charge something at the best time for the best price of day based on kilowatt hour prices, maybe optimizing the usage of your PV panels and all of that other systems can provide. Well, we'll show you today we can do that and much, much more with all the function blocks and all the additional functionality being added to config now. We're going to discuss the app briefly because I'm pretty sure you can see the sleek changes, and I'll show you the office configuration in a bit. So to get us started, first thing that we're going to look into in our product recap is going to be the config and app. And I'll probably go in the reverse order. We start with the app because I think it's absolutely amazing. So if you have an OLED screen, you've probably already seen that the app is very, very black. So everything is black, everything has a lot of contrast, everything is simplified, and now it's much, much easier to see and kind of navigate yourself through. Oops, let's not go to that yet. And if we have a quick look at our app, there we go. So the first thing that is happening with the app that is super, super big is obviously the design. So again, going back to trying to make the system easy to use for everyone, regardless of age, regardless of what field they're in and what their background is. There should be no background required, obviously, but we want to make it as easy and as intuitive. So a lot of changes coming in, and the first one is going to be the design. Obviously, if you're going to interact with the app, you want it to be pretty to look at. You want it to be very snappy, and that's why now we're changing from the old way that we did software for the app to the new way. So we're going to be using something that's called React Native, and we're going to have an app or optimized app developer for every single platform. So obviously for iOS and Android, things in the background work in a slightly different way. So we want to be able to optimize the app and have it being quick, responsible, and snappy for every single version and every single device you have. Currently, the app is kind of running as a web browser with a very nice UI on the front, but that is changing, and we're slowly getting to that point where we can say an app is exclusive to every single device. If we have a quick look around, you can see you have your familiar favorite central rooms categories. All of that's still in here, but everything's a bit cleaner, a bit simpler. We removed all the gray in the background, so now you can see the new icons as well. So new icon template, they're crisper, they are black and white. Obviously, everything can be turned into color, but these are just a few of the benefits. Rooms, again, very, very similar layout to what we had, but a little bit cleaner. And I'd say if we start looking to the new stuff, it's where the app is really going to start shine and show you, okay, what's actually the main difference. So in this office, we have integrated pretty much everything new that I'm going to talk about today. So the first topic that I really want to touch on is going to be energy and what is going to be best and actually show you what we have in here. So if you go to our energy section, we have a load manager, which, as you know, what it does is it shed loads. So if you have far too many things that are currently switched on at the same time, we're going to switch one off to make sure we don't trip a circuit and we don't trip the breaker. Simple, but it's a very, very nice feature to have. Not as critical in the UK, but for example, in Spain, when they have 16 or 32 amps mains feed to the house, it's quite easy to make everything trip. And in some situations, let's say you have 2-3 car chargers or something similar, you can make your own system at home do the same. So it's always good to have some kind of protection. Energy flow monitor, absolutely amazing. So what is that supposed to do? Obviously, we have full integration with our PV. We have integration with the grid. So we have a meter that's reading the information from it. If you have anything that's currently consuming energy that is plugged into a system, let's say my laptop, the fridges, or anything else, we can also add that in. And obviously, the biggest consumer being the house itself. Would there be an option to sort of time? 607, 607. Yep. So 24-hour and 12-hour time, this is something that we took a note of, and we're definitely going to change. So if anyone has seen their clock currently being set to 12-hour time instead of 24-hour or vice versa, that's a bug that's already reported and it's going to be fixed in the background, so nothing to worry about. Back to the energy flow meter, super, super cool. You have obviously breakdown, you have all the diagrams of what's happening at different times of day. Now, we did reset and reformat our SD card a couple of times. We were putting all the new changes, so there's not too much information to look at. But if we look at the live data, you can see production, consumption values, and if you have a lot of consumers, so for example, your heating system connected, car charger connected, maybe, I don't know, a PC that's mining Bitcoin, whatever you want to have in your system, you can monitor how much that specific device is consuming. And if you want to create a group of devices, let's say heating elements or anything else, you can group them in here, and then you can see what each individual device was consuming over the past week, month, lifetime. And you can also see as a whole group what the consumption was. How is that working? Well, as you know, all that magic is only possible because of locks and config. So back in config, we have a few new things. So as you know, we used to have a utility meter that was a kind of do-it-all, be-all energy meter. So for pulses, for something that is showing specific kilowatt hours usage or watts usage at the moment, current usage, it was the utility meter was the go-to device. However, there's much more that we want to monitor and we want to follow through. So that is why we have all the meters and we broke them down in different categories. We have the general one or the most generic meter, which is just going to take, let's say, if you connect a smart socket to a device and we want to meter the consumption, you can use the meter for that. We have bidirectional ones. So for anything that is going both ways in terms of it's receiving energy, it's also feeding energy back. Bidirectional is going to be a best choice. We have pulse meters. So it doesn't matter if you have a water flow meter, if you have an engine meter, gas meter, all of that we can integrate to the pulse ones. And I think one of the most interesting ones is going to be the fixed value meter. So what is the best way to explain this one? Let's say that you have a device, and every single time you switch that device on, you know it's going to consume 2 kilowatts. Well, we don't really need to put a meter on that circuit. We don't really need to have Modbus and overcomplicate it. We know, okay, it's a fixed value. So as long as that relay output is on, I know I'm currently going to be using 2 kilowatts. So that is only going to monitor if the device is on or off, and it's going to say, okay, if it's on, it's using 2 kilowatts. I really like that idea. It's actually one of our founders, Thomas Moser, is very passionate about it, because if you can read it and if you can create it by logic, there's no need for us to really be saying, okay, let's put a meter, let's put all these devices in place. So if you can do it for free with just a little bit of thinking and maybe a relay, why not add it this way? Now, where all of this comes to shine is actually the energy flow monitor, because we want a nice way to display it, a nice way to group everything, to have our production, to have our grid, the house, all the consumers, everything in one place, easy to navigate, easy to group. And that's exactly where the energy flow monitor comes into play. Because with that one, what I can easily do, let me open it up so you can see it better. I can add every single meter that I currently have. I can mark the device where, let's say I have the house, and the house is just part of the grid. I maybe have, let's say, a producer for a PV system, and I have quite a lot of consumers. Well, if I have multiple consumers and they're kind of doing all the same, so let's say a few laptops connect to the system, I can group them together. So we can also create a group in here, and you can put everything under that group. So everything that's related can go inside. So that is why in the app, we've seen that nice grouping in here. And the coolest, one of the coolest things about the energy flow monitor is that it can actually branch off. So as many times as you want to as many devices and locations, you can keep branching off. So you have consumers, your house production, your grid, and everything being displayed nicely. Then what this is doing, if we have our grids, our consumption, and our production, you can quite easily know, okay, where is the energy flowing from and to, and that's why we have these little dots obviously going from one way to another. If you've seen similar monitors, you already know how they work, but it's a very nice integration, and I cannot stress that enough, especially compared to the old energy monitor. The energy flow monitor blows it out of the water. Now, without trying to spend too much time on config, let's briefly talk about the rest. So we've updated the energy manager, being easier, more intuitive to use, and having a little bit more features. That is because the first generation, it was still good, but not that many people were using it because it was not as intuitive. And now with the new one, it's quite easy to connect a couple of loads, make sure that, let's say you have a washing machine and you want to run it for a minimum of 60 minutes a day, but you want to run it at the best time of day in terms of whenever energy is cheapest or whenever you have a lot of production. We can do that, and we can say, okay, if we're producing more than, I don't know, 5 kilowatts, oh, let me not close it. If we're producing more than 5 kilowatts, maybe run it for 120 seconds minimum a day, and make sure that this has happened before sunset, so or before I go home at a specific time of day. And you can also put the rated power of the device. So let's say my washing machine is consuming 1.5 kilowatts. And you can put as many devices as you want to. So now that we're producing energy, now that we're reading all that energy, we know that we have it. Obviously, the next best thing is to actually do something with it and make sure we optimize as much as we can. So on that note, I maybe spoil something a little bit, but there's also something very cool coming. Well, it's actually already happening and we can already do it. But if anyone currently has a contract with Octopus Energy, Octopus are providing every half an hour the current price of energy. And we can also say what is the lowest price of the day, what is the lowest average price, and make sure that whenever energy or electricity is cheaper, we use it at the best time of day. We can also do this and optimize it with our PV if you have one, and make sure that, hey, we have production now, we have batteries, optimize the whole system so it can be as self-sufficient as we can and rely on the grid as little as we need. So that way, your production is not going to waste and we can optimize it the best way possible. Wallbox is another block that got an update. If you double click, we can see now it has a couple of different charging modes. It can also adjust the output, so it can go 5 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts, and so on. And you can monitor pretty much everything when it comes to Wallbox and a car charger, state of charges, and so on. So if that information is available to us, we can optimize it in here. Also has a very nice interface. So if I go back to our app, there we go. You can see it. There's currently nothing plugged in, nothing is charging, but you can also go to graphs for consumption, power, and so on. I'm not quite sure which car charger Tyrion uses. One of them. Anyway, but it's a very, very nice upgrade to the interface. And here's also the energy manager. In our case, the energy manager in here is not doing too much, but the main thing that we want to do is Saturday, Sunday, because there's no one in the building. If we are producing a lot of energy, why not switch on the AC for a couple of hours? Because air is kind of a battery, because it can obviously save a little bit of heating for later. So basically we can have our energy manager saying whatever you're producing more than, let's say, 2 kilowatts or more than 10 kilowatts, start the AC, run it for a couple of hours and optimize the system up. So then next time we come in on Monday, we don't need to preheat from 15 degrees. We maybe only need to preheat from 20 degrees. So it's going to be much easier to achieve temperature. It's going to be cheaper as well. And I don't know if you've already seen the study, but even before we had the PV, we managed to cut 25% on our energy bill just by integrating Loxon with the AC system in here. So you can kind of see that there's a lot of potential. In a building like this one, that is not a small saving in terms of cost per month, and return on investment is coming pretty quickly your way. So a few more things to talk about. This one we're going to look into in a second. Text generators are super cool, but basically if you have predefined text, or if you want to send some text, or maybe use a text-to-speech message, send it to a touch Pure Flex or send a notification text, you can use the text generation, and now we can trigger every single one of them. So if you have different inputs triggering it, so input 1 is saying maybe welcome, input 2 is saying goodbye, or anything that you like, that's what the text generator is in here for. Now, I'll say probably my most passionate of all the new changes, or the one that I absolutely adore. I mean, energy is absolutely amazing, but what is going to help you a lot on a daily basis whenever you're troubleshooting, whenever you're testing commands, whenever you're trying to integrate with different systems, better tools. So if we equip you with the right tools for the job, we're going to make the job easier. So something that is very common on the market is going to be Modbus. As you know, a lot of devices support the Modbus protocol, either natively or through some kind of a gateway. So if we look into our Modbus extension, we now have improved monitors. So we can monitor all the information coming in and going out. So we can check if a device has received the information. You can check if there's any information coming back and feeding into us. And also, if we create a Modbus device, and if I add an output, there it is. So the brand new test command. So before, if you were messing about, let's say with Modbus, RS-232, RS-485, every single time you make a small change, maybe the speed of transmission, the parity, or the command that is being currently sent, you had to stop, save in the mini server, see if it works, go back, and that was a very daunting task. It could take a lot of time, and in this case, all of that goes away because then the mini server can be up and running the entire time. We can change the configuration to whatever we want it to be. We can say, okay, don't send it to address 1, send it to address 10. And then we can keep changing commands and just keep testing which one works. And it's going to be just as simple as pressing that test button, send the command that I want to send. And then that is going to let me know, okay, did that command go through? Did anything happen? Did I manage to switch on lights? Am I switching on a projector or anything else that is controlled via one of the protocols? One of the greatest things would also be if we go to our virtual inputs, especially HTTP. Okay, I'll do it the normal way, fine. If we go to our inputs, we have exactly the same thing. We can test commands in here as well. And now it's going to be much easier because you can test the command. It's also going to save a response back, or it's going to feed as a response back. So if I want to use, I don't know, some kind of an API to integrate with a third-party system, or if you want to listen to some HTTP commands being sent from third-party system to maybe switch on the lights, stop the music, do whatever I need, the test commands are an absolute lifesaver because it's going to save you time. And you can quite quickly see, okay, did my command work or is something wrong? Because in terms of troubleshooting, that is one of the most important things. Also, the new HTTP and UDP monitor, you can see every single command coming in. And in the case of UDP, also you're going to be able to see the command and you'll be able to learn it in. So if you, let's say, are listening for a doorbell or doing something similar, the command is going to pop in here as any other logs on device natively, and you can just add it in and say, okay, this is a door ring bell or whatever part of the system. So super, super useful, super handy, and they're pretty much available for every device, so everything that is commonly used. So RS-232, RS-485, Modbus, HTTP, and again, a game changer, in my opinion. If you had a conversation with me in the past month, we've probably seen me use it a couple of times. Even some of you may know that we've already used it before it was available to everyone else because it was such a great feature. So a lot of things happening, big changes, config 13.1. And I'll try to keep my mouth shut about everything else that's coming in 13.2, but it's just as exciting, if not even more. So with that quick run about different topics, I have something else very, very exciting to show you. Adrian Brown. Let me just leave this in here. So we're already working on 13.2. So soon for a public beta. So go back in and talk about the next beast. So power supply and backup is probably the first or the second device that you've seen within the release that we're doing up until the end of the year. Absolutely amazing. I do want to give you a size comparison and kind of show you the device around. So mini server, NFC core touch, power supply and backup. So 18 breaker units of space. So it's twice as big as the mini server. Obviously, you can see it's a bit beefier. It's a 40 amp power supply at the end of the day. It's metal, so it's very, very sturdy. And in terms of build quality, I'd say it's an absolutely amazing device. It comes with 7 24-volt outputs, and every single one of the channels is fused and it's monitored. So we can monitor the consumption of every single channel. Depending on what we have connected to these channels, we can obviously change the fuses. You can connect the battery to the device, and obviously this is your mains connection. You have spare fuses, you have the fuse tool, and then that connects via tree from the very top. And this is going to be pretty much everything that you need in your panel when it comes to power, or maybe two of these depending on how big the project is. Let's see, can you switch to your camera instead? Yes. So let's try to do that. My camera. Otherwise, so let's stop the screen share for now. There we go. Better, hopefully. So just going back to the chat. Was that a flat back? It's not completely flat. It is general mounted, as you can see the clips, and it's a metal backplate. It's somewhat heavy, hefty device. It's not that small, but when you consider this is replacing 4 10-amp power supplies, and it can also output peak 65 amps for a short period of time, I think that is absolutely great. So yesterday I want one. Everyone wants one. That is the case with the device. So what are the cool things that we can do? Going back to energy, what is the benefit of having the outputs and all of them being monitored? The main benefit is obviously that we know how much power is going to every single channel. And in here, as you know, we have quite a big panel. The office is not small. And initially we spec for 130 amps worth of power supplies. Then what we did afterwards is we measured every single circuit. We measured how much energy we're actually using and a couple of cool things that we found out. So 130 amps is what we calculated based on everything being used at the same time at 100%. But that was actually not the case. Obviously, we're never using everything at 100%, even if you have an alarm going off. What are the biggest consumers? Spots, music, and that's about it on the 24-volt side. Maybe a little bit of LED tape, but not as heavy. So because our spots are PWM, it's a very exponential graph. So instead of using 7 watts all the time, if you want to switch them on to, let's say, 80% of brightness, they're only using about 60% power. And then if you go even lower, to, let's say, 50 or 60% of brightness, we go down to, let's say, 40% of power usage. So actually, we're being very, very efficient. And with the whole office having music on, lights on, well, basically when we had the grand opening and we had a big party, even in a party setting, we only managed to peak at about 35 amps for the whole office. So 40 amps from the power supply and backup is going to be enough for this big building and all the locks and hardware that we have. Music, absolutely amazing. So I know a lot of you have been previously concerned, let's say, with the 18 watts per channel output that the audio server has. Funny enough, most of the time, even if we really tried to push it, we couldn't go past 12 watts per channel. And that is only for a very brief period of time. So what is the biggest benefit of that? You're going to have very loud music throughout the whole office, and that is going to be consuming the minimal amount of power. So for example, yesterday I was comparing with a normal AV rack, normal AV system, an amplifier that's using roughly 1 kilowatt of energy. Well, compared to that, just replacing a one-to-one, the same system, we can talk about return on investment, even if you just do an audio system, because of the large difference between how much a normal or an AB type amplifier is using versus the audio server and stereo extensions. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get some more information to you and some numbers so you can actually see how crazy it is. But maybe without going on a tangent, we have 32 speakers in the office. Every single speaker playing just normally in the background at 25%. I don't know what you would say you would expect to see from these numbers, but what we saw is 0.3 amps. Every single speaker at 25%, just background volume, 0.3 amps. If we really, really push the whole system, we're not really exceeding 10 amps, and we're talking about 32 speakers in here. So we might have overspec a bit, but hopefully we can change that with a power supply and backup. Now, something else that is super, super cool. In here, we can connect a 36-volt battery, and then you have a backup. So let's imagine a situation that's hopefully not going to happen, but we have rolling blackouts in the UK, and you know that you're going to be out for about 3 hours. Well, that solves the whole problem, because now we can have all our essentials, all our lights. I would even argue we can also have a little bit of music quietly running in the background on, let's say, USB drive, powered by your power supply and backup. You can buy 3 12-volt car batteries, wire them in series. They get 36 volts. Why 36 volts? Because a voltage drop. So you can obviously send 26, 27 volts to some devices to make sure we have enough. And also something that is something else that's very important is that the 12-volt batteries are the easiest or the cheapest ones to find on the market. So it's very, very easy to find just 3 batteries. And depending on what you want or how long you want to keep the house on, even if you go with 85 amp batteries, you can run it for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, depending on obviously the size of the project. And the lower you go in terms of brightness or in terms of music level and everything, the better it's going to be. Tyrion saying the blog is coming very soon for audio. So very, very excited to show you that as well. But yeah, as a power supply and backup, absolutely love it. I would love to be able to show it to you and give it to you in person, because as soon as you pick it up, you can also kind of feel the quality of the device. Now, jump on the next thing. Obviously, guys, feel free to ask questions throughout, because I know, there we go. I know questions might come to your head, and we should be able to answer more than one of them at a time. Can you use a backup to run the system during the day and then charge at night when? Interesting. Depending on which aspects you want to run. Obviously, if we want to run, let's say, pumps and an immersion heater, it's not going to be the best case scenario. But during summer, if you just need a little bit of lights, maybe some music, you can also put your router onto the system, because it's about 1.2 or 5 watts for the router. If everything's put on, you can basically have all your essentials running. And in theory, potentially yes, but not really the best use, or not what the device is meant to do. It's more of a backup in case anything happens. So does the new power supply supersede the old one? If not, what is the model numbers for the old and new? Actually, I'm not 100% if I get you correctly. So I'm not quite sure. So I don't know if you're asking about the 10 amp power supplies, but basically the 10 amp power supplies, that's still going to be available, but we do recommend having a power supply and backup in pretty much every single project. And Tyrion is correct. It's definitely not still 70. Yes. The power supply is still going to be sold. So it's still going to have the option to go with one or the other. And as I'm going back to Tyrion's point, lights, audio, and Wi-Fi. Yeah, lights, audio, and Wi-Fi. It is possible, but it's not going to be intended functionality. Let's put it this way. Now, next thing in line, touch Pure CO₂. Now, why touch Pure CO₂? As we know, our carbon footprint is very, very important. And there are a lot of projects, especially in the commercial aspect, where we want to monitor CO₂ because of regulations and because you want to make sure that the air quality in the room is always up to high standard, or what is expected from us. Now, you can obviously send text to speech messages and say, hey, air quality is poor, but that is not something that we do. What we do is we integrate with the MVHR system in the background, and we make sure we supply some cold, fresh air in, or we circulate air from bad areas into outside, extract air if you have some smoke or anything going on. So making sure we monitor it to the best of our ability, not only based on humidity, but also CO2. You already know that obviously the room comfort sensor tree does have a CO2 sensor. However, it's great to have everything in one device. So that's where the Touch Pure CO₂ comes in play. And in terms of looks, in terms of the device, it is still a Touch Pure, so nothing that's foreign to us. Now, oof, I rushed this one a bit. I wanted to preempt it, but let's go. So, very, very exciting product. I know, well, I know we have a few heating engineers. How many of you have used Belimo already, or have seen Belimo products in your projects, have played there with their actuators, or know about the company, have seen a little bit about it? I'm pretty sure there should be quite a few. But basically, there we go. There we go. There we go. So I'll say from 23 people, 3 saying yes. It's not a small number. It's a very good percentage, but I'm pretty sure there are more of you that maybe didn't realize it. Have one on my desk. I like that. What is Belimo? Why is it so important? And why is it part of the whole energy topic? Belimo is a Swiss manufacturer. They're manufacturing very, very high-end valves. They're used, yes, in BMS systems quite a lot. And Belimo stands for high quality. So we're kind of looking eye to eye when it comes to, we want to produce the best product on the market. As one of my partners called it, it's the kind of the Swiss watch of actuators. It's very, very accurate, and they might seem pricey. However, price to performance, and when you think about the longevity of the system, how easy it is to install, and how accurate it is, there's pretty much nothing else that compares. Belimo are quite big in the UK, but they're big also internationally, mainland Europe and abroad. And that's why we're releasing the Tree version and the Air version. The Belimo Air is probably one of, if not the only device on the market that offers Belimo in like an air version or like a wireless solution. So if you have multiple actuators and you don't have access or hardwired access to that part of the system, you can quite easily have a Belimo Air in your project and set it up this way. Now, I will go and quickly show. With the Belimo, you have 2 main protocols. You have MPO bus and MP bus. So kind of their own protocols. So to one Belimo Air or Belimo Tree, you can connect up to 8 or up to 16 devices based on which protocol you're using. How everything's collected. MP bus actually can be connected in absolutely any topology. So if we look online, it's going to just tell us, okay, you can do a daisy chain. That's not the case. You can do star, you can even do a ring. So absolutely any topology is supported by the MP bus. Now, MPO bus is the other protocol they use, and you can see, if we go to Belimo real quick, that pretty much all of their high-end devices do support it. And if you go to valves, actuators, there's quite a lot that you can find in here. Dampers, obviously, ball valves, butterfly valves, sorry, everything that you can think of in a heating system or in a very nice BMS system, they have it, and they're kind of leading the industry in that way. It's very, very big when it comes to energy efficiency, when it comes to making a very nice, integrating down to the very core level of the whole BMS. So being able to control every single valve, every single damper. They also have sensors for pressure, for CO2 monitoring, duct sensors, and so much more. So it really opens a world of possibilities, and we do see a very, very bright future between Loxon, not only UK, but internationally in Belimo. They're really also taking it to heart from their side. So stay tuned, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening, and we're also going to let you know. So that's the Belimo. Size-wise, you can already see if you... Okay, I might join. Let's see. Um, Size-wise, very, very small device. So it is the same footprint as a Nano IO, Nano motor controller. So you can pretty much fit it anywhere. As long as you have a tree cable or air signal to that space, you can super easily connect it. And in terms of connections, the MP bus or the ML bus is just one wire, and then we just need to connect the grounds. That's it. And then you go from device to device to device, wherever you want to. So, next thing on the agenda, the brand new Loxon Wallbox released today. Now, very, very exciting product again. There's so many things to talk about that I really don't know where to start with, but there are going to be a couple of versions. We are going to have the more, let's say, a version that is better fitted for the UK market, which is going to be a single phase 32-amp version. It's going to have dynamic charging, so you can charge from anything between 1.38 kilowatts up to 7.4. And then obviously based on how much energy you're producing, when energy is cheaper, and so on. And there we go. Here it takes over. Whenever energy is cheaper, we can make sure that we have, okay, we have 5 kilowatts, 6 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts to spare, and all of that we can dump into the car and make sure that we're not wasting energy. We something that is super, super cool. I think you can already see it on the front of the device, but let me go here and show you a little bit better. On the front, there's space for touch pure device, so you can put an NFC code touch. So if I want to do authentication only, so I go present my key fob, and I'm the only person that's able to charge, or maybe I have 3 different people that are able to charge. But let's say someone else comes in and they want to tap into our car charger for free. That's absolutely not going to happen. They need to be authorized user. If it's in a very in a closed environment where maybe it's in your garage or someone somewhere inside, you can have a touch pure, maybe to switch the outdoor lights or anything else. And obviously the touch pure flex, where you can adjust your modes and do quite a lot of different things. Does it include pen protection? So very good question. It does not include a pen protection, but it needs to be added from the installer to comply with UK regulations. So either pen protection, or you need an earth pole to basically make the whole system compliant with regs. So no, but we do need to. So whenever you're planning a project or whenever you want to put one, we can have a quick discussion about installation, regulations, and everything else that comes in play. Now, that is not all. The device comes with, so you have the air or tree version, depending on what you need, obviously. And then let me show you. Oh, I don't think we're going to have a nice picture in here. Oh, no. Anyway, I should be able to, doesn't matter. So you can obviously plug your device directly onto it. That's absolutely fine. But what you can do is, so what we want to show is the DIN rail mounted part of the enclosure. But the Wallbox also comes with built-in Modbus interface. So obviously, there are quite a few things that are using Modbus, as I said earlier. For example, you can have your inverter and getting the information from your PV system. You can have a Modbus meter to the grid. You can have Modbus beater to the device. You can have quite a few different things that are supporting Modbus. So the device comes with Modbus built in. And there's a little DIN rail inside where you can put a DIN rail mounted device. So for example, a small Modbus meter. If we actually go to the video, let's just say 3 minutes, 18 seconds. Ah, there it is. There we go. So you can see your 24 volts, your locks on tree, then you have the Modbus interface, and then there's a little DIN rail inside. So you can see the device. So if you require a calibrated meter, you can put one of these in. Now, circling back to what I was showing earlier, this is the second reason about why we have the new Wallbox, because now in here, we'll be able to set different charging modes. So maybe max charging power, I can call one of them, well, max charging power is going to be 7.4. Maybe we have an eco, which is about, I don't know, woohoo, 3 kilowatts. And I can just have a couple of different modes. So I can go and say in the app, okay, 3 kilowatt charging, 7 kilowatt charging, or make it dynamic. So you can connect it to your PV system and say, okay, we're currently producing 5 kilowatts excess, dump that 5 kilowatts directly in, or you can do a 1-to-1. So whenever your production changes, the power output is going to change. So basically, you're going to balance out the production and consumption if you need to. So maybe if after all the production, you're still left with, I don't know, 5-6 kilowatts, you can quite easily go and say, cool, let me dump that energy into the car. So I'm not wasting it. I'm not selling it back to the grid for essentially what's no money. And it's, as I said, a super, super cool product. It's going to be a great addition to everything else when it comes to energy and the whole energy topic. So very, very excited to share with you guys. You're getting pretty much first looks, and then we obviously have the release today, so should be able to see the device. We also sell a Touch Pure Flex for the Wallbox. So if I actually go to the shop itself, oh no, missed it. Go. I know, Tyrion, I know. There we go. There's a Touch Pure Flex. That's already pre-configured for that purpose. So we have 3 modes by default: Eco, Comfort, and Full Power. And basically you put that in front of the device, and it has that obviously cutout. It has tree, it has a power, and it's super, super easy to just plug it in. And this is basically how your car charger is going to look like whenever it's up and running. You can put it outside, obviously. It's IP device, so there should be no issues with that whatsoever. Now, circling back a little bit, but I did forget to circling back a bit, but I did forget to mention the power supply and backup block. Obviously, the power supply and backup comes with its own block with everything pretty much pre-configured. As you know, as one of our new default devices, that is going to have a few outputs and inputs. And for example, you can see what every single circuit is doing. You can put it in backup mode. So maybe in backup mode is not going to be outputting as much, or it's not going to be outputting as much to your channels, but maybe you're just going to have the lights on. You're just going to have a little bit of music. You're just going to have some maybe blind control, but everything else is going to be scrapped. You can see battery state of charge if you have connected a battery, overload protection, and everything is going to be built into the device and into the block itself. So you don't need to do any complex configuration or anything special. Now, all of this ties in nicely together in terms of we have everything from the very, very first step, monitoring and knowing how much we're consuming. Once we know that information, then we can start distributing power to different sources. And then what is left after we're distributing, after we're kind of equaling out and make sure we're using energy at the best time of day, then we really need to consider an uninterrupted power supply in terms that, hey, what happens if power cuts off? What if I'm actually living in a remote location where that is happening quite frequently? What is my backup solution? There's the power supply and backup in there. So what I kind of wanted to do is do a couple of questions. So I'm trying to leave a little bit more time, but if you don't have any questions, I'm happy to go on into more detail about every single product that was currently discussed. So anyone, feel free, shout it out. Anything about energy, config 13.1, the new app, examples, fixed meter use, absolutely. Fixed meter. Let's say a very, very simple example. Let's say that I have, what I have? I have an immersion heater is what we're going to have today. So let's say I have an immersion heater and I'm switching it on and off every now and again whenever I need it. Obviously, I'm going to be switching a relay for that immersion heater. But then one thing that we know in here from logic is that whenever this is connected, I can also connect it to the fixed value meter because we know, okay, relay is currently on, which means that it is consuming X amount of energy. Now we can say what the device is doing and what is the unit of energy. So I hope you can all see my screen, but you have meter reading for nominal power of flow. So you can say, okay, currently the device is consuming, I don't know, 1 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts, whatever it is. We can all set it up in here. You can see resets, you can see nominal powers, and basically it's a very, very simple block that is going to give us quite a lot of information. So basically whatever device you have, it might be just a lighting circuit that you know as soon as it's switched on is consuming 100 watts, or you have immersion heater that's consuming quite a few kilowatts. You can just have it connected in here, and then here are the default values that we want to adjust. Offsets, you don't really need in most cases. And then the power rating or nominal flow, maybe 2 is the correct one for now. On the new config version, does it support scaling in Windows now? What do you mean in terms of scaling? Is it zooming in, zooming out, or scaling blocks? Okay. Does it support scaling? You have room to fit pen fault detection, the Wallbox. Are these plans on doing it? So currently, no. It is being produced for all markets at the same time, so regulations might be slightly different in some areas, but pretty much everyone that's in here, it's an electrician, and you do know what we need to do in terms to comply with UK regulations. So that is why the penfold is a separate edition. So we'll still need to add it. We still need to add either a penfold or we need an earth pole, but one of these we can always add whenever we're planning out the project. Is there a way to transfer statistics from old pulse meter back to the new ones? So if it converts automatically, in some instances, you can see that it's been deleted, but currently there's no way to just automatically add them in. It's going to be just the new statistics being rolled in. There is a way to manipulate the file. but probably that is a different discussion to be had, because obviously the statistics are all logged in on a specific file, so you can add all the information in if you want to. You just need to do a slight adjustment. Oh, okay. I think I got what you mean in terms of scaling. So talking about this and going to scaling of projects, or not quite sure. Right. No plan for it. Can you rename the default ARA consumers to something sensible like my house in the energy? So currently not, or at least I haven't found a way yet, but the idea by ARA is quite simple for now. Basically, we have the consumers that we know about and the consumers that we don't know about. So if the house is consuming, let's say, I don't know, 10 kilowatts at the moment, we can have the whole house, and then we can have consumers. Consumers can always be broken down in categories, or they can be broken in the same group under the house. But basically, if you have any energy that you're consuming, but you don't know about, or you're not currently connected to it, it's going to go onto the other category. Or do you have to add a fixed meter at the consumer for grid battery solar? No. We can, yeah. If you add a fixed meter and call it house, we can also kind of pull it this way, because that way there's going to be other section. If we read all the information, there's going to be just house, PV, and whatever your consumers are in the grid. We have high resolution screen scaling components of the app. And part of the icon block at the top. Okay, scaling in the app, so scaling in here. So on most devices, that is actually a setting on the device. You can choose icon size, and then that is going to make it either bigger or smaller. So for example, if I go to my Android phone and I set icon size to large, they're going to scale a little bit more. Is there documentation about statistics files? I would like to add. Well, because it's not really a supported feature, there's no 3D documentation, but can discuss about the way to read a file, because you obviously can download statistics directly from the mini server if you're recording any. So I don't think I have, because obviously my mini server was just connected today. But let's say you had some statistic recordings, you can export it, and then you can go to the log file where you're saving all your statistics, and then you can kind of merge the information together. It's more of a trick, so I'm not going to go into too much detail now, but again, we can discuss. The mat din pen looks like it will fit. Okay, Darren is already coming up with a good solution about pen fault. Says that there's a DIN mounted solution that looks like it's going to fit, which is amazing. It's not that, it's scaling in Windows. I think it's probably the scaling of the blocks, which is still not supported. Maybe in the future. Can the graphs produced in the energy mode be exported from the app? Some customers asked for this. So the graphs can be exported directly. You can export the statistics. However, what you can do with statistics is you can go to Graphite, or you can use just Excel to kind of export the same information, or kind of get the same information from all the statistics that you already have. Will the Wallbox be available with black cover? So currently it's just the one design, which is going to be kind of the futuristic white one. But as you know, everything's based on demand. But for now, it's going to be just the sleek white basic function. Okay. Do we have anything else? I'm pretty sure that there are probably a few big questions that we might miss. think the main one is that everyone is excited about a Wallbox. The limo is obviously a big one, but I'll speak with some of you. I know quite a few of you are heating engineers and you do commercial projects, so it's a very good topic to bring up. CO2. So a quick recap. These are most of the products. What we do want to go on to next. If it goes to, do a quick poll. So, of course, as you know, on every single webinar, we do a quick poll. So for anyone that wants to get training on a better price, we do have update training at 50% off. So only $64.50. And we do have 2 new dates added to the list. So I'm going to run the poll now. And then you can pick a date. If you don't want to, don't pick one. But we do have the 24th of November and the 14th of December, both of them in person. I would always recommend an in-person training because obviously you get a little bit of networking and you get to enjoy the nice new space that we have. We feed you. There's going to be pastries. I can't say it enough. And obviously you get either me or Cameron, so that's a benefit on its own, I would say. With a new Wallbox, log support, third party. Well, I'm slightly confused. The Wallbox itself is obviously the charger, the function block. Oh, okay. Yes. The function block is still going to work the same way, so you can use it with different devices. Fable, haven't been able to find them yet. The webinar from last week is available. Tyrion did send me the link, and I'm just going to. Oh no, Tyrion, can you please post it in the chat? It's on the last slide. There we go. He's already prepared for that. There it is. So if you go to that link, we can grab it for next week. I can also do this for you guys. Easy for me. Do you have training courses for the beginning of next year? So we don't have the dates for next year yet, but we're going to add them soon. So if you join on next week's webinar, I'll make sure that Tyrion has added a few so we can have from January, February and onwards. There's a link. And a quick recap of what's to follow next. So next week is going to be energy metering in Loxone, how that is done, how to go about it. So we're going to look into more into depth about all the energy meters and in terms of the fixed meter, the bidirectional ones, how they work, what would you usually connect them to, the energy flow monitor, and we'll have a very nice example. Panel, power supply, and layout basics, because we're going to be redoing our own panel in here, adding the power supply and backup, and a few recommendations that we have. Then we're going to have planning and design for big projects and hospitality projects. And then we're going to end off the year with designing, installing, and configuring a Touch Pure Flex, which I know I've already done with quite a few of you, but it's nice to see that you've enjoyed the device. So absolutely lovely. Now, I think that's pretty much all of it from me today. I mean, I can go on different runs, but we'll keep that for next week as well. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, stay green. Cheers, guys. Have a nice evening.